Moorish roots of Black America, from Spain to the 14th Amendment before slavery, before 1619, before the United States even existed. Black people known as Moors ruled cities, signed treaties, built empires, and even explored the Americas alongside Europeans. This is the untold story of how Moorish identity shaped Black American history. Alhambra, Cordoba, Moroccan cities like Fez and Marrakesh. In medieval Spain and North Africa, Moors were Muslims of African descent, Black Berbers, Arabs, and Sub-Saharan Africans. Spanish records called them Moros Negros. Portuguese chroniclers used Moros Negros. They were rulers, scholars, and seafarers, not slaves. Columbus's journal African Ships Approaching the Americas. Even Columbus acknowledged that Africans reached the Americas before him. He wrote that, "The people of Guinea have navigated to this coast and traded with the Indians. The Indians brought pieces of metal for trading, and I asked them where they came from. They replied, 'From the south, where there are people who have swords and who are very warlike.' They said the metal was called guanine, and that it came from black men who came in boats from the south and southeast. These were the Guinea Moors, Black Muslims from West Africa who had long-distance maritime contact with Native Americans. In the 15th to 17th centuries, European explorers, especially the Portuguese and Spanish, used Guinea to describe the entire West African coast south of the Sahara and north of the equator, stretching roughly from Senegal to Cameroon. It included several major regions: Upper Guinea, modern Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Grain Coast, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, Gold Coast, Ghana, Slave Coast, Togo, Benin, Western Nigeria. So when Columbus, the Portuguese, or early Spanish texts mention Guinea, they're not referring just to the country now called Guinea, but to the entire coastal area rich in trade, especially in gold, ivory, and later slaves. Esteban the Moor, explorer of the American Southwest. And in the early 1500s, a Black Berber named Esteban, or Stephen the Moor, became one of the first non-native people to explore the American Southwest. Originally from Morocco, Esteban was a Black Moor enslaved by the Portuguese, later taken to the Americas. He traveled through Florida, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, years before English colonists even arrived. Spanish records described him as a Moor from Azamor, a city on Morocco's Atlantic coast. He spoke multiple languages, served as a guide, and was seen by indigenous tribes as a figure of power. Esteban was not a passive servant. He was a pioneering explorer. Portugal invades Morocco, enslaves Black Moors. In the 1400s, Portugal launched crusades into Morocco, capturing cities like Ceuta, Tangier, and Azamor. They enslaved thousands of Moros Negros, Black Moors, including men like Esteban. These captives were transported to Europe and the Americas. Doctrine of discovery authorizes enslavement of Moors. Under the doctrine of discovery, popes granted Spain and Portugal the right to enslave Saracens, Moors, and pagans. This launched a centuries-long war on Black Muslims and Jews, labeling them threats to Christian civilization. Black Moors in slave manifests. In the Americas, Black Moors were renamed Negros, Moriscos, Guinea Blacks, but in early records you still find entries for Moro, Moreno, Moorish slave. Definitions: American Encyclopedia and Webster. Americans in the 1800s knew the meaning of Moor. The 1828 Webster Dictionary: a black or tawny man, a Negro. The 1873 American Encyclopedia. The term was often used to denote Arabs, Berbers, and Negroes of a Mohammedan faith. The term Moor carried racial, cultural, and religious meaning, especially when applied to Black Muslims. John Jay and the U.S.-Morocco Treaty. In 1786, the U.S. signed a treaty with Morocco, brokered by Chief Justice John Jay. It protected all Moors or Moroccan subjects on American soil, Black or otherwise. Some free Black Americans used this treaty to claim Moorish identity, arguing they were not subject to enslavement under U.S. law. David Walker's appeal. In 1829, abolitionist David Walker reminded Black Americans, "We once taught the Spaniards, we introduced civilization to them." He was referring to the Moors, Black Muslims who ruled Iberia and brought science, architecture, and governance to Europe. Walker saw the Moors as proof that African Americans came from greatness. Free African Society. Richard Allen Absalom Jones. In Philadelphia, the Free African Society, led by Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, sometimes identified themselves as Moors. not as slaves, but as a proud people with a royal and spiritual legacy. Fraternal orders and Moorish imagery. Black Freemasons and other fraternal orders, like Prince Hall Masons, adopted Moorish names and symbols to reflect wisdom, dignity, African royalty. Courtroom cases: James Moore, John Hannibal North. Some free Black Americans went to court invoking Moorish nationality. James Moore, a Virginian, claimed Moroccan identity to avoid state slave laws. John Hannibal North, a sailor, was listed as a Moor in maritime records. These were bold legal strategies rooted in treaty law and a sovereign identity. Blackamoor in newspapers during 14th Amendment debates. During the 1860s, American newspapers still used the term blackamoor to describe Black citizens. The word evoked foreignness, exoticism, and unbelonging. It reflected a country where Black people were still seen as outsiders even during debates over civil rights. Today, many African Americans carry E1B1A, West Africa, E1B1B, North African, Berber, Iberian, Moorish, and Moroccan ancestry. Some of these traces link directly back to Moors like Esteban Moriscos and Moros Negros, enslaved and dispersed across the Atlantic. In 1920, in Harlem, another voice rose. Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthew, founder of the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews. This was the earliest known Black Hebrew congregation in the United States to explicitly use the term Moorish in its name, combining African Jewish and Moorish identity. Matthew taught that Black Americans were descendants of the ancient Israelites and that their path ran through North Africa, Morocco, and Moorish Spain. His message was clear. We are the lost Hebrew Moors, scattered by slavery but remembered through prophecy. Dressed in robes resembling Moorish North African attire, Rabbi Matthew built a congregation rooted in Hebraic law, Zionist ideals, and Moorish African history. The temple would later evolve into the Commandment Keepers Congregation. A major influence on the Black Hebrew Israelite movement reclaimed the name Moor as a symbol of lost nobility, spiritual heritage, cultural continuity. In the 1926, Noble Drew Ali proclaimed, "You are Moorish Americans, descendants of the ancient Moors of Morocco." He drew on the Morocco-U.S. Treaty, Islamic history, and 19th century writings like David Walker's Appeal. 711 CE, Moors conquer Spain. 1147. Afonso, I captured Santarem from the Moors. 1240s. King Afonso III captured Algarve from the Moors. 1415. Portugal invades Morocco. 1492. Moors expelled from Granada. 1492. Columbus discovers Guinea Moors trading with indigenous Americans. 1520s. Esteban the Moor explores America. 1786. Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Morocco. 1829. David Walker's Appeal. 1868. 14th Amendment ratified. 1920. Moorish Zionist Temple founded in Harlem. 1926. Moorish Science Temple founded in Chicago. This isn't revisionist history. This is our history, restored. The Moors were never lost. They were reclassified, renamed, and resisted. From Esteban to David Walker, from John Jay's Treaty to Rabbi Matthew's Temple, from Moorish Muslims to Moorish Jews. This is our story, and we're reclaiming it. If you enjoyed this video, type #whitewash in the chat. Like, comment, and subscribe to restore Moorish memory, because Black history is Moorish history.